I like to say that a lot of people have compromised either accessibility on their app or they've compromised quality, right? But we've just compromised our sanity in building this crazy experience where it's both accessible and beautiful.
So, hi everyone. We are here for another podcast episode and this time with Lex Avellino from Passage. Welcome, Lex. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Excited to be back with the course team for round 2 of our conversations. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, welcome again. Could you please share a little brief intro on what is Passage? This just for those one that didn't watch it the first, and then on your role and responsibilities in the project, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, on my part, I'm the founder and chief creative officer. So I've been with the team. I founded basically a creative studio back in 2017. We were working with all kinds of big brands, Capitol Records, Warner Brothers, Dallas Cowboys, Red Bull, Marvel, Disney, a bunch of cool people building physical and virtual events. We did a lot of like virtual design and then helped with fabrication of these experiential events that are happening in Hollywood and all around the world. And the whole idea was, we made a lot of human experiences happen from nothing, right? And so it was really entertainment-oriented events around movie launches, brand launches, concerts, things like that. And so we just got really good at what does this look like from virtual to physical production across that whole spectrum. And that really turned into, when COVID kicked off and everybody was, at home, how do we recreate that just on the virtual side, right? How do we get the best of the physical experience in the virtual, right? How do we make this whatever it can be, right? Not replacing physical experiences, but how do we capture more of that magic of in-person serendipity? So that's where Passage came about. Some of our first events were it started off as basically like a white label experience that we were building, doing experiences for Capitol Records, Amazon, Scooter Braun, and American Girl. So some huge brands and names, and just building experiences specifically for them. And then we kind of got to a place where we want to turn this into a product that anybody can use, anybody can access. And so what Passage is now, it's a platform for creators and brands to create virtual events. So very simply put, but in another way, the real value proposition for creators and for brands, people who have an audience, a community that they want to connect with, the value prop is this is a new revenue model for them in one click, instantly, right? It takes one click to get into Passage. And we have our whole set of world building tools for creators to build, Passage experiences. And this all happens in your browser, right? There's no downloads, there's no apps. So it lets people create a new revenue stream, a new product, a new way to connect with their audience very, very quickly, right? Without compromises, right? I like to say that a lot of people have compromised either accessibility on their app or they've compromised quality, right? But we've just compromised our sanity in building this crazy experience where it's both accessible and beautiful, right? Because usually you have to have either a big gaming PC or in order to access a AAA experience, right? Something that's really high quality and immersive. Or you have to have special hardware like a VR headset, or you're dealing with something that's low quality graphics because it's viewable on your phone. Passage brings all the power of those Unreal Engine experiences to any device, to your phone, right in your browser. So it's the best of both worlds. So that was not a quick intro.
No, absolutely. You brought so many interesting stuff that I'd like to deep into some of them from now on. And starting from the beginning, what exactly is a virtual world? How do you define, for those who are not really into this market, or, how do you define a virtual world? What is the interesting part of it? What is,
I mean, if you watch the Passage, product video, if you search Passage.io on YouTube, you'll find our product video that kind of walks through the experience. It looks a lot like a game, right? But for us, the human connection was kind of like the most important part of what people experience in Passage. So we've put the video communication at the forefront. So the first stage of Passage is you're talking face-to-face in 3D, right? Your video represents you. You walk around a 3D space. You can interact in a 3D space. And the whole idea is that When you turn, it's your video turning. You can walk around just like you would in a video game, but you can do this on your phone or on your laptop or tablet. It's accessible on any device. And when you turn, somebody can see you turning. Right now, like we're looking at this screen and I can see you and you can see me, but like I might be looking, it looks like I'm looking you directly in the eye, but I'm actually looking at my camera. So I can't see myself, I can't see you, right? Like I've got a big monitor, so like I can look at one side of the screen or the other side of the screen. And like, it's just, what am I looking at, right? I'm staring into nothing and there's no real eye to eye contact. In Passage, it's beautiful because when you're looking at somebody, you have to turn to look at them because you're all in 3D space. And everyone can see that. There's a relational element because you turn to look at one person and, I can see, oh, he's not looking at me. He's looking at Johnny over there. So I know he's not paying attention to me. Or maybe he's like looking around the room because it looks beautiful, right? And you can tell when someone's distracted because there is this personal element. And people naturally arrange themselves in circles in Passage. It's really cute where like, people find their place in the circle, and some people will be on the outer ring of the circle because they're a little more introverted. They're like, their video is on, but they're not as noticeable because they're kind of pulled to the back and they can see everybody else just fine. But it really lets them kind of get into their comfort zone. So that's a virtual experience. It's 3D, it's like a game, but it's meant to be super, super accessible, minimal controls, very easy touch controls or click and drag. But it's got, the virtual communication at the forefront. So like a game, but accessible. And the three-dimensionality of it, the spatialization of it is a really important thing. That's part of what makes it unique from other communication tools.
Yeah, for sure. And you said this, I think, twice at least. It's like a game. So yeah. What is the difference, in your opinion, from a virtual world or virtual social experience and a gaming experience?
I mean, in some ways, none, right? It's just gamification. It's built on Unreal Engine, so it's built on a gaming engine and a top-tier gaming engine. So the graphics are beautiful. It really is kind of pushing the limits of what's possible with virtual experiences visually, right? But then also we have access to all of the blueprint features that Unreal offers. People can create fun little functionality. You really can have interactive worlds. It's not a passive space. It's not just about communication, but that is the starting point. And even with just using Passage as a hangout or a work collaboration or a community interaction space, there's a lot of value there. But you can easily go beyond that because Unreal can be leveraged. People can leverage the blueprints, create all sorts of custom functionality, whether that's putting gamification features in or being able to make like a room private, so you have to have a special access to get into this space versus this space. Like there's lots of fun things you can do to create interactivity with the space. So it's like a game in a lot of ways. The key is that this is for everybody, right? This is not even the graphics of Passage. If you watch the product video, you can see it doesn't look like Minecraft. It doesn't look like Nintendo. It doesn't look like a game typically, right? In the sense of having like childish graphics, right? It is, it's capable of doing very, very realistic experiences and so everything from the fun and the whimsical to the professional, right? That's the beauty of Passage is it's not trying to lock everybody into one way of interacting, right? It's not trying to be Minecraft where it's like, yeah, I mean, I know there's all sorts of brand experiences in Sandbox or in Decentraland, but it's kind of weird. You're kind of forcing this brand to bend their aesthetic to the platform, right? And that's weird, right? Like, why is my brand going to change just to participate in this world, right? Doesn't it make more sense that the world would reflect my brand? And that's what Passage allows people to do. It allows them to have a professional, high visual aesthetic if they want, or to be more playful, right? And so that's what's unique about Passage. That's why it's not like a game, or at least it's not like one game, right? It allows you to pick how you want to express your brand or your creative vision, inside these virtual worlds.
It sounds really exciting. I would love to try some experiences like that. Is there, so yeah, I don't know if you can share at some point or perhaps later with us any kind of experience that we can try. If there is something live already. And that would be actually my next question. What is the status of Passage, of the project in general? Like, what have you built? since the last time that you came to talk to us in 2022? And what is like the focus right now?
Yeah, 100%. So right now we're in alpha. And if you ask the community, we've been in alpha way too long. And I heartily agree. It's been a slow process and so right now our alpha testers, we have a few hundred alpha testers who have been in Passage worlds. And they've been able to go in. We've done some community events there, some like talks, some hangouts. They've been able to interact with the 3D world, explore. Right now, the world that's open is Blockhouse, which you'll see in the product video. It's in there, but it's an event venue that we built custom for Passage, built in Unreal Engine. Looks pretty. And there's a stage and a screen for presenting on stage. So we've been able to go in with the community, put up some materials on the screen. So everyone's kind of gathered around the stage. And I can see, again, who's looking at me, who's wandering around. And we've been able to kind of share like, hey, here's some updates. Here's what we're working on the screen. And the next updates for Alpha, we're working on, I would say the biggest priority right now is getting to a place with the professional tool set where basically we can start bringing in customers, right? The goal for us, and this is going to play into some of the value accrual proposition for the blockchain, is just basically onboarding customers. We have a list of people right now who want to be using Passage, everywhere from our music entertainment partner, Decentralized, to like schools that want to, like colleges that want to use Passage for their education programs. And they're basically just waiting. They're waiting to be able to pay to use Passage. And so that is our primary goal, is getting there, where we can just start onboarding clients. And at first, it'll be onboarding customers through, they'll talk to us, we'll set them up and all those things. But it's getting as quickly as possible to a place where people go to the Passage website, they sign up and they set up their world, and it's totally hands off, right? That's like the biggest stage of success, is when people can sign up for Passage, build a world, and host their experiences, and we never interact with them, right? That's when it's scalable. That's when we've really kind of achieved, beta for the SaaS model, right? And that's when we have value accrual coming into the Passage chain as well, in a consistent, predictable way, right? So that's the earliest goal. There's some things along the way there, avatar customizations, world building tools. There's things that go into that, but that dash for our professional users, which is just the first audience. I mean, when you look at Passage, and we can bring you guys into a demo, we can bring you into the alpha hangout. You see like there's all sorts of opportunities, all sorts of potential for like what it could be, right? So this targeting specifically of creators and brands who already have an audience or monetizing, whether it's a school or a streamer, right? It doesn't really matter, but people who already have a community built around what they're doing that can benefit from this type of community platform, those are the people we're targeting at first, right? Over time, there's a lot more applications, different verticals we can address, but that's kind of our go-to-market, is adding value to people who are already reliant on their community for revenue, right?
Yeah, great. That's clear. So now I wonder, what is the real value that a blockchain adds to it? Because you even mentioned the chain.
Yep.
And I think many people might be wondering that, because the part of virtual experiences, I think it's quite normal to think about it in the Web2, some Web2 services, let's say some conventional chains, services that do not really involve a blockchain. So why do we need the blockchain, and how these communities would benefit from it?
Well, in a lot of ways, if we're just talking about the platform's core functionality, there's a sense in which we don't need the blockchain, right? And a lot of people fail to recognize that, which is why they fail to create value for the blockchain, because they don't know what it's for, right? Arbitrarily putting a blockchain into your infrastructure usually just adds complication for the team, complication for the users. And for us, we don't want that. We want a university program leader, right, who they have a college, they got a program. This is not a technical person. We want them to be able to set up their Passage world for their students, for their teachers to use. Like, hey, you've got these different spaces you can use as a teacher to bring your students in, whatever, or your remote students, without having to figure out a blockchain or, a wallet or all these different things. Like, that should not be part of their onboarding process. It should be sign up, pay with your credit card, boom, you're done. And everything else happens in the background, right? So for us, the blockchain is really an investment in the future. It's an investment in the long term, because we want to be constantly pushing for decentralization. And, it's a great question to ask, like, then why have you built the blockchain up front? And part of it is we want to factor decentralization in from the beginning. That does increase the burden, especially on a small team. Like, it definitely slows things down. I think it's important. I think it's something we want to have factored in as early on as possible so that it can be as integrated as possible. But what I believe the blockchain does is it allows us to push towards a decentralized platform where it's easier to get involved in the economy around Passage, right? Because you don't have to link a credit card. You don't have to, you can trade value really easily through tokens. I think the Web3 model for exchanging value is so much better than the traditional experience. Once you're inside the loop. Onboarding can be tough, but once you're in, it's so smooth using a Kepler wallet, exchanging tokens versus trying to use cash and things like that. Also, we want those assets to be truly ownable, right? And so if those assets are on a decentralized chain, there's always the ability to move that value somewhere else, right? Move it onto a different platform, move it onto a different chain. Like, if it is truly owned independently, especially in IBC world, right? There is the most portable value in that system, right? If it's in a closed system, if it's all just in a database somewhere, there's almost zero opportunity to translate that value unless the team initiates it, right? Our goal is to move towards open source infrastructure where people can build, portals to other platforms. And that doesn't apply just to, your customizations and your world building stuff. That applies also to the relationships you form, right? If you've got, connections to your followers, if you've got huge social media influencers who come to the platform because they monetize their community, right? They are reliant on their community for their monetization mechanisms. They want to add value. So they bring them to Passage and they say, hey, now your membership in my community program includes weekly sessions in Passage, right? And so they're able to add a whole new feature and a whole new experience for their community with almost zero effort, right? Set it up in a day, build your world, customize, tinker, and all that. And then your community can get in with one click, right? They don't have to do all sorts of weird signups or things like that. It's an email and a password, and that's it. And then what that does is they start to build their following in Passage, right? Because it's adding this value for interaction. But then there comes a point where as the blockchain features flourish, right, and become more integrated and this blockchain grows, there's a very real opportunity that one of our goals is that all of those relationships are decentralized, right? So that your connection to your community, that is an artifact on chain, right? So that unit itself is portable. So that, for instance, you may be connected on Passage, but let's say somebody else builds a Passage compatible social platform that's really focused on interactive video content or educational content. It's like they're doing something cool. They've added some new functionality, but now that creator doesn't need to worry about building an audience there. He just brings his Passage audience, right? That's where decentralization really begins to kind of add value to what we're doing, because that totally revolutionizes social platforms, right? If a protocol like that could really take off, where you had a sufficient mass of people in decentralized relationships, you've got a whole realm of creators that basically can build their following for the last time, because they've done this thing where it's like, okay, I gotta build my following on YouTube, and now I've got to build a following on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. I've got to build a new following each time I go to a new platform, which is wildly inhibitive for innovation, right? And so what this would allow is not just for the creators to move to a new platform, but it actually allows new platforms to pop up overnight, because they know if this exists, they don't have to create an audience themselves, right? Because the creators can bring the audience with them. All they have to do now is create new functionality, right? So a new YouTube could pop up overnight if this really gets traction, right? Because right now there's no reason to build a competitor to YouTube, because they have all the people, they have all the creators, right? And so it's really, really hard for something like a Rumble even to get traction, because people have to have a reason to shift.
Yeah, or even to change platform. Like if the creator just wants to start sharing on a different platform, it's already like you have seen this creators like on Instagram, for example, saying, "Hi guys, I actually am moving from this platform to the other. Can you go? Please give me a follow." It'll be no one really goes there.
Well, just because
that platform is just like
that platform might have better monetization mechanisms or better terms of service or whatever, right? And that's it. And it's like, I can't, as a creator, optimize. I can't make more money. I can't, grow my ability to produce as a creator because I'm stuck on the platform where all my people are, right? So our goal is that that's not a thing, right? That people would have the ability to move, and have portability. And what's cool about that is, and this is really kind of forecasting into the future, because like I said, our go-to-market is really just adding value through the experience to those creators. It's, a new value add, a new revenue stream without a ton of effort, right? That's kind of wild for a brand or a creator to be able to do. But then long term, I do see huge opportunities, especially in the world of decentralization for the blockchain. So for us, the way we've structured it in our tokenomics is that 10% of all revenue for the Passage platform is going towards blockchain, the growth of the blockchain, right? Which in a proof of stake system means incentivizing staking, right? So for us, it's really just kind of an arbitrary, like it's like, hey, we're going to be funneling value into this system as a kind of a core element of our budget because we believe in the future of this, right? And we'll add lots of features that enhance the value of the chain over time, right? Part of it is just funneling value from a true SaaS model, right? Creating a real consumer base, a real customer base, funneling value into the blockchain so that it grows. Because really, a blockchain should really just be a budget item on everybody's, like on their budget sheet as a business. Yep. But the problem is so many platforms, so many blockchains, so many Web3 brands, they don't have that because they don't have revenue, right? Like it doesn't actually make sense. You're just recycling monopoly money. So for us, it's
model sometimes is not really clear.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is we've got tokenomics, but we don't have a business model, right? And it's like, that doesn't make sense because ultimately you have to have, the problem is it's recycling value, right? People come in because, oh, you're going to do something cool, right? And then there's an initial surge of value into the ecosystem and it all just kind of, goes away as people siphon out value in different ways. But there's no influx of value, right? There isn't a way for value to come in to attract customers, right?
Absolutely.
So this is where we're trying to think.
The 10%, for example, can it be changed by governance?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that we'll adjust over time, because ultimately it's just a guess as to like what's going to make sense, and it is a conservative guess at first in terms of like what's going to make sense in terms of the value accrual for the blockchain. We don't even know in a lot of ways as an ecosystem what is sustainable, right? Because a lot of the systems we've created in Cosmos and beyond are not sustainable, right? Like this idea that like, how many validators do you need to reach, true decentralization? How much do those validators need in profit to operate? So what kind of staking incentives need to exist? There's all these different factors where it's like, I don't really think we've reached kind of like a point of consensus on what is a viable operation as a business, as a product, as an ecosystem, right? I think we have a lot of unsustainable metrics because we've been living in monopoly land where, the money is free and you get $200 every time you pass go, right? And so for us, there's a lot of like guesses at this point as to like what's going to make sense, but it will be a constant process of iteration and refactoring that as we onboard clients, as we get traction and have revenue to allocate towards the blockchain.
Yeah, but having this kind of processes being defined by governance already, it feels to me that you create already some balance in terms of, for example, demand for token because actually you want not only validators and token holders in general, but also creators and the community to also be staked, because then they can participate in governance, for example. They are interested in how much they want to give to the blockchain, but they will also getting some of these rewards back if they are staking as well.
Right.
So it's a beautiful balance, actually.
I would say the most exciting thing for me is people who participate in the chain for non-financial incentives, right? Not for speculation. Because if you participate to speculate, either you're going to come away sad or you're going to extract value from the ecosystem, right? Because either you lost money and you didn't want to, right? Or you gained money and you have to take profits, and that pulls value out of the ecosystem, right? The way you get value into the ecosystem to facilitate speculators and other people who want to, make a financially based decision is by, you have to incentivize people to put money into the system, put value into the system for non-financial incentives, right? So imagine you have a creator and they're putting money into the system because they want to create a world where their audience can pay them for access, right? So that's one value mechanism. But then their audience can also buy customizations and things like that. Like, we have this fun thing, and we take transaction fees on those things, right? Which allow us to have other, different forms of value coming into the system. But then take that a step further. Like, you could have your pro creator he's been in the platform a long time. He's paying, the pro subscription or whatever to have access to the coolest tools on Passage. But then he finds out, I can actually unlock this other feature. If I spend $100, I can unlock forever this feature that I want that gives me access to who knows what, right? But it's fun features within a platform he's already using. Same thing for consumers. You can say, hey, maybe it's customizations, or like Discord, when you boost a server, right? You get a special role, you get things that make you stand out in your community, right? Imagine if you could do that, but what you're actually doing is you take the money that they pay for that, and you say, this is going to LP, right, to create liquidity. Nobody's expecting that money back, right? Like, you can create funnels into different parts of the chain, because the problem with so many of these things is, like, you have a value input that is dependent on a value extraction, right? I'm putting money in because I want to get more money out later, right? So it's just debt, basically. Whereas if people are putting money in and then they get what they want, they get this cool new feature, they've unlocked a thing that is essentially free once the infrastructure exists, it's free for us, then you have real value input that can grow, liquidity provisions. It can grow, staking and incentives and like the total stake, but in a way that isn't debt, that isn't just going to be extracted later twofold, right? So those are the kinds of things that we want to create, incentives that are not just speculative, that are not just based on a later value extraction.
Yeah, that says a lot about the profile of the Passage community, I would say then. So thinking about the community in general, like, do you have a strategy to attract the same interested people in the same vision, let's say? How do you make sure that you bring the right people in?
Yeah, I mean, so in terms of the community, I mean, for one, the Cosmos community is the best community. Everyone's figuring stuff out when it comes to blockchain, Web3, infrastructure, systems, what's a good product. But I still think Cosmos is one of the best places to have informed consumers. And we just had somebody in the Discord yesterday, one of our favorite fudders, who is just pretty consistently giving critical and helpful negative feedback for the team and the community. And he said, he expressed, like, I'm really thankful that you guys have kind of let me slam on you guys, right? And like call you out. And I'm like, we want that. Like, we have a huge appreciation for a whole range of criticism and intelligent feedback that helps us to improve, right? And the Cosmos community is the best at that because they are the most informed consumers, I believe, in all of Web3. To be in Cosmos, you have to have reached kind of a certain understanding of decentralization and the Web3 ecosystem. It's an informed decision. Nobody ends up here by accident, right? So the community is incredible in Cosmos. Beyond that, We're building our community through the creators we're collaborating with. One of the creators we're working with now is Royce da 5'9". He's a big Grammy-nominated hip-hop artist who's done work with Eminem and a bunch of other huge hip-hop artists. And he's building a world on Passage. He's one of our alpha creators who's basically helping us to kind of pioneer, what it looks like to build a community space. We have some other teams like Decentralized doing their music events. And because of our background in the creative space, working with brands to build out creative experiences, we have a lot of just like strong connections where as the product reaches certain points on the roadmap, we're able to just kind of like put that in front of our audience, in front of our, even in front of our studio partner clients. So we still have the studio team that's done a lot of 3D work for Passage, building out different worlds and templates and things like that, that maintains a client base of creators and brands, right? So we're able to basically onboard a lot of our existing relationships into Passage, just basically upgrading them from the stuff we're already doing with people on the service side. And so there's just a lot of existing network that we've been building for the last 6 years that we can kind of pull in. But also we're building out, just a rich traditional SaaS marketing plan for the platform. A big part of it is like, do stuff that people want and you'll get more of those people, right? It's really about like, okay, when we do these events, when we show people, just document what's happening, what people are creating on Passage, you start to attract people who want the same thing. So that's a big part of it. It's just kind of this organic marketing that's done really well so far in terms of just a big part of our early marketing was just like going into Passage with different project leads, different creators, and just kind of like recording and just like recording people's reactions, taking screenshots, like, and that was part of how we marketed Passage initially, was just like, just show people what it's like. And it'll be more of the same primarily because we're just creating more cool stuff with creators, and that's just part of the process.
Totally makes sense. I imagine that in terms of speculation, this is something that the speculators don't really like, is things that move
slow.
I wouldn't say slow, but it's like not really on a rush. Perhaps slow. So you mentioned that you were on alpha.
Yes.
And you said that many people would say that we are on alpha for too long. So tell me a bit more on like your sensation about the development. How do you feel about it in terms of like, you don't want to rush. You want to build and to grow organically to guarantee that you have the right community and the partners and creators who really share the same vision, right?
Yeah.
So you even mentioned like in the beginning as well that you need to make it like a bit more professional, creating the tools. So perhaps share a little bit more on that onboarding process of creators and partners.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say part of the slowness is just that early on we committed to too many things at one time. It's so easy to do that when you see what people are getting excited about, say, we're going to do this, when really like you have to figure out this thing before you even know how you're going to get to this thing, right? And so, and the other part of it is just a naturally complicated process of doing something novel, right? So we've been constantly, unfortunately, trying to do novel things, right? So we did this is from the very beginning. The Strange Clan sale was basically an off-chain NFT sale via Kepler. People paid us via a Kepler transaction. That's how we were able to validate their wallet, and we received Atom. But there weren't any NFTs because there weren't any NFTs on Cosmos at the time. There was no NFT marketplace. The Stargaze marketplace, Juno didn't even launch until it might have launched right before or right after our launch with Strange Clan in October of 21. And so like there was literally no way to do this. A few months afterwards, so that was in October, by February, we launched a marketplace where people could then use that same wallet to claim their NFTs on Juno. So we launched the marketplace on Juno. So like novel then, first NFT marketplace, first NFT sale in Cosmos, right? First NFT marketplace on Juno. Just recently moved the whole marketplace to Passage, right? And I'd say it was a really smooth experience with lots of bugs. So like the people didn't have to like you do a transaction or verify, like they just connected their wallet and suddenly their NFTs were in Passage instead of in Juno. So it was a really smooth experience in that sense, but there were tons of bugs in the marketplace on the first week because we just, we were flying by the seat of our pants, and we had a lot of things planned out, but nobody had ever done this before, moving a whole marketplace from one Cosmos chain to another. And so there's a lot of things where, we had to fix things afterwards in the user interface to make sure it showed up the way it should. But everything went great on chain. It's just that's not the user experience, right? So doing something novel has always kind of like slowed things down, and we're constantly trying to do something new. We're learning how to just like finesse the things we've already figured out and polish. And a big part of what we're doing now is connecting the pieces. So connecting the pieces of the core experience, which is going into Passage, one click to get in, but you're in this really immersive Unreal Engine world. And then you've got the video communication and all that. We're connecting that to the avatar customization system, which is all built out. We have that. It exists. You can customize your avatar, but then connecting that to the world where your avatar shows up with all your fun little customizations. And then connecting that to the world builder, which again, we've done demos of that with the alpha team, showing them like, this is it, drag and drop, all in Unreal, all through your browser. But it's connecting those pieces. And we've committed to a big thing. And it's a lot of like, every piece is novel, right? The idea of being able to stream Unreal Engine worlds with this video communication, like all of that, every piece of it is new infrastructure that we built from the ground up, right? And then connecting that to a world building tool that's also streamed. Like we've just added layers of complexity that make it slow, right? And unfortunately, we're always more optimistic on like, how long is it going to take, right? So I was thrilled just to get the community in, allow the alpha testers to test these things out. But we've got more things that we're going to connect. And basically, that is the threshold for beta. Once we have these core things connected, like again, we're trying to pare it down to the bare minimum. What does somebody need to host a good event with their community and pay to do it, right? And be able to allow their audience to pay. That's it. That's stage 0, right? And then we get to move to stage 1, where people can onboard without our help. Like they can set up, like just making it easier and easier for people to do more things on their own. That's kind of what the process looks like right now. Connecting those core pieces, just so we have kind of like the MVP, onboarding the people who are already on our wait list as customers. And then stage 1 after stage 0 is being able to onboard through just a marketing funnel, right? Being able to bring people in who have never heard of Passage. They can go in, sign up, test it out, and start paying from all on their own. So those are the next stages. That's what we're looking at kind of through the remainder of the year, is connecting everything and onboarding our first paying customers, which will be a huge, huge roadmap or a huge milestone, because it's kind of rare to have a real SaaS model in the Web3 space, but we're close. So.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. I can't wait. I was wondering, silly question perhaps, let me know if it is a silly question. Would it be possible to build like a yoga class experience using Passage?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, part of what we're actually working with a team for a while that have a wearable fitness system. And this is somebody who's been interested in Passage and integrating it with their community. It's a high value product. So they have customers who are looking for high value experiences. And it's wearable fitness. You do these workouts, and they have kind of like instructors who do videos, but they want to be able to do something live. And Passage is kind of the perfect environment to do that, right? Like, because there's a fun way in which, like, okay, could you actually see each other in Passage doing the motions because they're tracked by your suit or whatever? Like, there's fun things you could do to kind of make that more and more immersive. But there's also just a really simple version of that where everybody tunes in, they put their iPad, up on a stand so they can see the instructor, and maybe they can be set to like auto track, where it just kind of auto tracks whoever's talking. So if you've got multiple instructors or if there's collaboration happening, so it's hands-free, right? Where you could go through the course and things like that, but have this kind of space for it, or cast it up onto your big screen TV or whatever. So there's a ton of opportunity for things like that because it's built on Unreal Engine. There's a lot of like easy wins in terms of integrating different hardware, right? Whether it's wearable tech, VR tech, things like that. It's already built into the Unreal Engine system. It's just creating the user experience on the passive side for people to connect that hardware and bring it in.
Amazing. I love it. So I think last topic on my side, but please feel free to also, use the time to suggest any other topics. The AI boom. Like, what is the real value from what is happening on artificial intelligence, and how can it be leveraged by creators, for example, using Passage? Like, can you speed up the process of building a virtual world by using AI?
Yep. So we already have actually an AI partner who's doing really incredible things. So we've seen a number of people who are trying to do AI for 3D. And most of them, again, like I said, we have a rich, 10 plus year background in virtual production and the 3D space. And so this is a technology we've been involved in for a long, long time. 3D is kind of like our core. And a lot of people, it's not really 3D, right? Sometimes there's some really cool tools for generating a 360 scene, but that's just a picture wrapped onto a sphere, right? That's not 3D, right? And there's other things where it's like, they're making it seem like this is for the game pipeline. This is for 3D, artists. It's like, okay, but you're actually just generating concept art, right? Or you're generating textures that go onto a 3D model, right? Which is cool. And some people are starting there, but that's not really 3D, right? So we've seen a lot of people who are trying to do different things. Sortium, we believe, has really gone the furthest in terms of what's possible with AI and 3D. They have some incredible partners and backers, for their team, and the team is just constantly building, constantly delivering new things. We've been using it, and we have a partnership where we're integrating Sortium into the Passage world building tools to the point where stage one is that kind of like textures mapped onto 3D. So you could customize an asset. You can get a default chair or a default character or whatever, and then change it to make it your own using Sortium prompts, right? You just type in, and we've already got this working in some test environments in Passage, which is really cool. And as they kind of, and as both of us reach certain milestones, it'll be integrated into the world builder and to a place where 100% you'll be able to customize assets. You'll be able to create new assets. This is something where it gives people a step between fully custom and fully stock, right? Where it's like, you can buy something stock off of the marketplace, right? Which is cool. We're creating a place for 3D creators to contribute, and Passage creators or brands can buy that stuff and make stuff with it. But they might want something unique, right? They might either want a unique spin on something that exists, or they want something they haven't seen yet, right? And AI gives them the opportunity to do that in a super fluid manner. And it's going to take some time before AI really matches the quality of a handmade asset. So there's still going to be kind of a cool progression where it's like, you can do totally stock. You can do something that's custom using AI, so it's really simple and fast, or you can do something that is fully custom, and you can kind of like commission somebody to create that. But what this does, even in the short term, it just gives people a huge amount of creative flexibility to take existing assets and make them their own, right? To really be able to, with no technical help, right? Again, just prompts, you're able to, just based off of your own creativity, make something that doesn't look like anything else that's out there, even if it's built from stock assets, right? So that's really exciting, even in the very short term with our Sortium partnership. And they're at sortium.ai if people want to check them out, because they're doing some crazy stuff.
Great. So what would you say for those that want to get involved somehow with Passage?
Yeah, 100%. So hop on our email list at passage.io. Hop into the Discord. The community is incredible. They've really helped us to kind of like push this further and kind of identify, different opportunities. They're able to answer questions. People have questions. We're communicating pretty regularly on social, so follow us on Twitter at Passage.io. But at the same time, if there's questions or materials you're trying to find, definitely hit up the Discord because somebody there can answer your question pretty quickly.
That's it. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks Lex for sharing everything.
Always a pleasure.